In Hung Hoa district, there was a traditional herbal medicine merchant named Huang Mingyuan. He specialized in trading rare medicinal ingredients, ranging from ginseng, lingji mushrooms, and poria cocos to bezoar and beetle-related herbs. Thanks to his keen eye for quality and his long-established reputation, his business prospered greatly, and he accumulated an immense fortune. With a spacious house and overflowing granaries, he could be said to be one of the wealthiest families in the region. Huang Mingyuan had a wife named Qin, who was dignified in appearance, gentle and kind, and knew how to take care of her husband and children and manage the household well. They had 4 sons, all intelligent and quick-witted, none of them older than 10 years old. Every day the house was filled with laughter and cheerful conversation, harmony among family members, and the neighbors admired them, considering their family a model of prosperity and happiness. However, life is unpredictable and wealth cannot escape misfortune. One day Huang Mingyuan heard bad news spreading throughout the town. An army was advancing towards Hung Hoa, and in just a few days, it would invade the city. The whole region was in chaos. People were fleeing, carrying their belongings, while others hastily hid their valuables.
Upon hearing this, his heart pounded, and he couldn't sleep all night. He wasn't afraid for himself, but his greatest worry was that his wealth, accumulated through years of hard work, would be stolen. What would become of his wife and children? How would they survive in poverty and separation? The fortune was far too vast, gold, silver, and jewels piled up like mountains, so abundant that even if one wished to take them along, it would have been impossible.
He pondered for a while and finally came up with a plan. Waiting until midnight when everyone in the house was asleep, he quietly went to the backyard, took out large chests filled with gold, silver, and precious jewels, divided them into many portions and wrapped them tightly in oilcloth. Then he secretly dug a deep hole under the main house's foundation, sweat dripping, his hands trembling, but he diligently dug until almost dawn. When the pit was deep enough, he placed each treasure chest down, covered it with cloth, and then filled it tightly with earth, leveling the surface. He deliberately added a layer of lime so that no one would notice any traces. Having finished, he sighed, feeling both relieved and uneasy. Early the next morning, he woke his wife and children, briefly telling them that the rebels were approaching and that they could no longer stay in the city. The couple hastily packed a few essentials, taking with them a handful of rice, some salt, and a warm set of clothes. Carrying their 4 young children, they followed a trail out of the city. They sought refuge in an abandoned house deep in the treacherous mountains, intending to hide there for a while until the war ended. In the mountains, day after day they survived on thin porridge to stave off hunger. At night, they lay awake listening to the howls of wild animals, each person trembling with constant fear.
2 months passed, food supplies were nearly depleted, and there was no news from outside the city. Huang Mingyuan became increasingly anxious. He couldn't eat or sleep properly, his mind was troubled, and he was constantly worried that the treasure hidden under the house would be discovered or damaged. The poverty, the leaky roof, and the crying of his children at night only intensified his distress. Finally, he decided to take a chance. One early morning, while the sky was still misty, he instructed his wife to look after their children carefully, and then quietly descended the mountain, following a winding path back to the town.
The road was deserted, with grass growing wildly on both sides. From time to time, the distant crow of a rooster and the faint sound of horse hooves echoed through the air. As he approached the city gate, he saw thin wisps of smoke rising in the distance, and a sense of unease stirred in his heart. He slipped along a narrow alley, intending to quietly return home to assess the situation. But he had not gone very far when a patrol of soldiers carrying white flags approached from the entrance of the alley. Startled, he was about to turn and flee, when unexpectedly one of the soldiers caught sight of him, suddenly stopped, then hurried over and respectfully bowed in greeting. Huang Mingyuan stood frozen in shock, his heart pounding violently. Looking more closely, he finally recognized the man. It was none other than Wang Shun, the one who had worked doing odd jobs in his household 3 years earlier. Back then, Wang Shun had been gentle and honest, so poor that he did not even own a decent pair of shoes.
After leaving his house, he disappeared without a trace. Unexpectedly, he was now clad in armor and carrying a spear, patrolling the city. The two recognized each other, their hearts filled with mixed emotions of joy and sorrow, and they stood by the roadside exchanging greetings. Huang Mingyuan anxiously inquired about the situation in the city these days. How were the people? Had the army harmed anyone? Hearing this, Wang Shun only sighed, his face filled with sadness, then spoke in a heavy, hoarse voice. Huang, you don't know, the city is no longer the same as it used to be. The bad news from Wang Shun left Huang Mingyuan utterly devastated.
Wang Shun recounted that the new general who had just entered the city was a brutal and cruel man. He ordered his soldiers to go throughout the streets, arresting young girls aged 15 to 20 and imprisoning them in secluded houses outside the city. Afterwards, he sent his subordinates to each house to demand ransom. It was clearly announced that within 10 days, if their families brought money to ransom them, they would be spared, but if even one day passed beyond the deadline, they would be beheaded as a warning to others. The entire city of Hung Hoa sank into terror, with cries of grief echoing throughout the night. Hearing this, Huang Mingyuan felt his heart tighten painfully. He collapsed heavily to the ground, his heart pounding wildly, his eyes fixed in the distance as tears streamed down his face. After a moment of silence, he asked in a trembling voice, "So, how many people have they captured?" Wang Shun lowered his head and replied, his voice choked with emotion, "At least more than 1,000 young women, from daughters of wealthy families to those of poor households. Not a single one was spared." Having said that, he let out another deep sigh. What terrible karma. Those brutal invaders are utterly inhuman, seizing people as if they were livestock. No one dares to stop them. Hearing this, Huang Mingyuan felt a sharp pain in his heart. He pondered for a long time, then suddenly looked straight at Wang Shun and said slowly, "Wang Shun, I have something I want to ask of you. To be honest, there is some money buried under the foundation of my house, about 20,000 taels of silver. This money is what I saved my whole life. If it can save those innocent girls, I am willing to do it without regret. Can you please tell the general for me to offer the ransom money for their lives?" Wang Shun was stunned, his eyes shining brightly. He clasped Huang Mingyuan's hand tightly and said emotionally, "Old Master Huang, you are truly a great and righteous person. 20,000 taels of silver is enough to ransom them all. You are truly a living Buddha saving people. Please rest assured, I will immediately report to the general, and this matter will surely be accomplished." Having said this, he hastily took his leave and ran back to the camp. That night, Huang Mingyuan sat by the oil lamp, his heart filled with anxiety, his eyes fixed on the window all night. Early the next morning, while the sky was still hazy, Wang Shun rushed in. Breathing heavily, his face beaming, he reported that the general had agreed. As long as the money is paid today, all the girls will be released. Huang Mingyuan heard this, said nothing more, and immediately returned to his old house. He quickly removed the wooden platform in the middle of the house, took a hoe and shovel, and dug into the hard soil, stroke by stroke. Before long, several heavy wooden chests appeared. He opened them and saw that they were filled with glittering gold, silver, and jewels. Without hesitation, he asked his neighbors to help load them onto a horse-drawn cart, and then personally drove the cart to the enemy camp. When the soldiers received enough money, they opened the gates and released over 1,000 imprisoned girls. These girls were thin and their clothes were tattered. As soon as they came out, they burst into tears, knelt down and bowed to him, repeatedly calling out, "Benefactor." When someone asked, they learned that Huang Mingyuan had given up all his possessions to save them, and everyone was moved to tears. The news quickly spread throughout the city, and even to the mountainous region where he was hiding. The next day, crowds of people, young and old, parents of the rescued girls, carrying their children, incense, flowers, and cakes, trudged to his small house in the forest to find him. They knelt down in the courtyard, bowed their heads in gratitude, chanted Buddha name, and prayed for his and his family's well-being. The chanting of Buddha name echoed through the valley, moving everyone who heard it to tears. They stayed for a long time, only leaving one by one as the sun began to set, their hearts filled with admiration and gratitude. But his wife, Chen Wanqing, remained completely unaware of what had happened. When she saw her husband return empty-handed, the house deserted, and the money chest gone, she was stunned and questioned him frantically. When she heard him confess that he had given all his possessions to the army to ransom the captives, she was petrified. Then suddenly she screamed, her face flushed with anger. From a wealthy lady, she suddenly found herself penniless, without enough food or clothing. How could she bear it? Chen Wanqing wept, banging on the table, cursing her husband as a fool and a spendthrift. She cried, "You're good at saving people, but have you thought about your wife and children? We have 4 children. How are we going to live?" Then she resolutely demanded to take her 4 sons back to her parents' home, absolutely refusing to live with her deranged husband any longer. Huang Mingyuan looked at his wife and children, his heart aching as if it were being cut by a knife. He understood that her reproach was not wrong, but his heart remained at peace, because at least more than 1,000 lives had been saved from suffering. Huang Mingyuan knelt before his wife, tears streaming down his face, his voice trembling as he pleaded, "Chen Wanqing, don't blame me. Saving a life is better than building 7 Buddhist pagodas. It is a great act of kindness, a meritorious deed for the whole family. Money can be earned back, but a human life, once lost, can never be recovered." But Chen Wanqing was in a fit of rage, her heart filled with resentment and fear, and she couldn't hear a word. She shook her husband's arm, tears flowing like a stream, weeping as she pulled her 4 young children toward the door, determined to leave the now empty house. But as her feet touched the threshold, a strange phenomenon suddenly occurred. From the heavens, a soft rumble of thunder echoed, followed by a golden light that filled the sky. White clouds formed layers upon layers, swirling into the shape of a giant lotus flower. Within these clouds appeared a god clad in golden armor, over 3 fathoms tall, with a majestic face, sharp eyebrows, and bright eyes, radiating a brilliant aura that illuminated the entire courtyard. He walked on the clouds and descended right before the gate, his majestic presence causing everyone to kneel down. The god's voice resounded like thunder, the sound echoing through the air. "You are the wife of a good man, how can you be so foolish? A wealthy woman who does not understand morality, only knowing how to enjoy her blessings, and not knowing how to empathize with her husband's kindness. What a pity." That voice echoed in Chen Wanqing's heart, making her tremble and her face turn pale. The deity continued, each word resounding like a bronze bell. "Do you know that your husband used his entire fortune to save over 1,000 innocent girls from the executioner's blade? 1,000 lives, 1,000 families reunited because of it? Isn't that merit greater than 10,000 taels of silver? Wealth is just an inanimate object, but virtue is a living blessing. He not only saved people but also accumulated immeasurable blessings for your whole family. Your descendants will enjoy that blessing for generations to come, so why do you still complain and not understand the will of heaven?" Hearing those words like a bell awakening from a dream, Chen Wanqing's face flushed red, and her heart tightened. Overwhelmed with shame and remorse, tears streamed down her face. She knelt on the ground, unable to lift her head, her mouth stammering, unable to utter a word. Meanwhile, the golden light in the sky grew brighter, and a sweet fragrance filled the courtyard. The god in shining golden armor turned to Huang Mingyuan, his voice gentle yet majestic. "Huang Mingyuan, you are a man of great virtue and integrity. I, on behalf of heaven, deliver this message. The Jade Emperor is well aware of your good deeds and is moved by your benevolent heart in saving people without sparing any expense. You have saved over 1,000 lives. Your merit is immeasurable. Now I bestow heavenly blessings and protection upon you and your family. From now on, your 4 sons will all meet noble benefactors, excel in their studies, pass examinations, and bring honor to their ancestors. Your family's blessings will be 10 times greater than before. Hearing this, Huang Mingyuan was astonished and overjoyed, tears streaming down his face. He hurriedly took his wife's hand and knelt down, bowing his head in gratitude, his voice trembling. Thank you, Divine General, for your enlightenment. Thank you, Heaven, for your mercy. Chen Wanqing also had tears in her eyes, her heart filled with deep remorse. Now she understood that the husband she had just reprimanded was a great benefactor, not only saving people but also sowing seeds of blessings for the whole family. Her anger vanished, replaced by deep gratitude and joy. She held her husband's hand tightly, her eyes welling up as she whispered, I was wrong. You are a man with a bodhisattva heart. I am deeply ashamed. A gentle breeze passed by, the clouds gradually dispersed, leaving only a faint fragrance lingering in the air. From that day on, Huang Mingyuan and his wife lived in harmony as they had in the beginning, turning their hearts toward goodness, revering the Buddha and cultivating virtue. He returned to his former trade of dealing in precious medicinal herbs, but now he took only modest profits, focusing mainly on helping the poor and the sick. Strangely enough, even though he sought little gain, his business grew more and more prosperous. Customers from everywhere flocked to him, and his reputation spread for miles around the city. In the years that followed, the Divine General's words indeed came true. Within 10 years, Huang Mingyuan's 4 sons successively passed the imperial examinations. One became a prefectural official, another a renowned scholar favored by the court. Because of this, the Huang family flourished in honor and prosperity. Their wealth increased and their virtue became widely known. People in the region often retold his story as a living testament to a timeless truth. Accumulate virtue by saving lives, and blessings will endure for generations. From then on, people called the Huang household a family that practiced charity and stored up blessings. Later generations continued to follow his example, worshipping the Buddha, cultivating goodness, and living righteously in the world. The story of Huang Mingyuan teaches us a profound moral lesson. Wealth may be lost, but virtue is the true capital of a human life. A single wholesome thought can save countless people. One compassionate act can transform the destiny of an entire family. He gave up all his possessions to save others. It seemed like a loss, but in truth it was a gain. He gained people's hearts, gained blessings, and gained the protection of heaven and the Buddhas. In the Dharma of Gautama Buddha, there is a saying, saving one life is better than building a 7-story pagoda. For compassion is the foundation of all merit. When we place the benefit of others above ourselves, that is when we sow the seeds of liberation and lasting happiness. The sacrifice of Huang Mingyuan became a light shining upon future generations. His descendants succeeded, his family prospered, because true blessings always arise from a virtuous heart. Remember, money is external, only karma follows us forever. Do not wait until you have abundance to do good. Begin today with kind words, good deeds, and compassion toward those who suffer. Every good act, no matter how small, is a brick building a tower of blessings for us and for future generations. If you feel the power of goodness in this story, please like, share, and subscribe so that together we may spread the spirit of karma and compassion. May the wisdom of Gautama Buddha allow the light of the Dharma to illuminate many more hearts in this impermanent world.
Từ bi, trí tuệ của Đức Phật Thích Ca Mâu Ni giúp ánh sáng Phật Pháp soi rọi thêm nhiều tâm hồn giữa cõi đời vô thường này.